everyone, welcome to the 67th drop of Escape the J-Curve, and I am your host Rohan Nag. Today I am dropping perhaps the biggest and the most explosive episode of Escape the J-Curve, because today I am in conversation with Kent Clothier. Kent has started 11 multi-million-dollar businesses, including one which he grew from $800 million to $1.8 billion in less than 3 years. Yes, Kent is the real deal. Kent is an immensely successful entrepreneur, and we talk about so many fascinating things like the entrepreneurial DNA, the mindset that it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, internet marketing, direct response marketing, but perhaps the most important topic we discussed today is the question that I had asked Kent: are entrepreneurs born or can they be made? Very, very, very fascinating episode. So get your popcorn, strap in, and here it comes. Hi, Kent. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Kent. How about you?
I'm doing great. Hold on one second. Let me get some water, and I'll be right there.
Sure.
All right. I'm good.
All right, Kent. First of all, welcome to Escape the J-Curve, and thank you so much for doing this episode, because I'm really grateful that you are able to join us for the episode.
No, it's my pleasure, brother.
Awesome. So let's get started, Kent. So 11 businesses that you have started so far, valuation being about 3 million to about 1.8 billion. So take us to the starting point. Take us to your origin story, Kent. Why did you decide to start your first business and not go for a 9 to 5? Was there an event or a person or a book that you read that pushed you towards this path, or were you always entrepreneur?
Yeah, I was actually raised in an entrepreneurial family. So I don't know that I ever really had an option, because my father was basically like, look, you got to get, when I was raised, it was very simple. He would always tell us that good isn't good when great is expected. And so if we have great in us, we have to continue to try to push ahead. So raised in that environment, watching my father build his own businesses, working closely with him, I was always, brought up in an environment where I was never really expected to ever go get a job. I was never expected to go to college. I was basically, my path was going to be my path. So first and foremost, that was, I was hard when I was a kid, because all of my kids, because I was working, for my father, at a very young age inside of grocery stores, et cetera, stocking shelves and unloading trucks and doing that kind of stuff. But then, I certainly would never have gotten that entrepreneurial spirit if I hadn't been raised that way. So I don't know that it was an event as much as it was just being raised a very specific way. Now, my origin story is that being raised in that, my father and I kind of stumbled upon an idea, and an idea was that back in those days, this was almost 30 years ago, back in those days, grocery stores would order all the products for their store shelves. They would order them out of what were called deal books. And so these distributors from around the city, around the area, would send in basically like a catalog every week and say, here's all the products that we have in stock, and this is what you can order, and we'll deliver it to your stores. And we started to notice that there were major price discrepancies from one distributor to the next. And so what we decided that we should investigate was, can we buy a distributor where one guy's selling it at a discount, and then turn around and just go sell it right back to the other distributor who is trying to sell it to us at a significantly higher price, basically an arbitrage business. And that little business, as it turns out, those price discrepancies exist all over the world. So the exact same, I'm sitting here drinking a bottle of Fiji bottled water, right? We've all seen it.
Right.
What most people don't know is that bottle of water, that Fiji water, is being sold for one price. I'm sitting here in San Diego. So the manufacturer is selling that bottle of water locally here for, let's just call it $50 a case, but they could easily be selling it in Miami, Florida for $150 a case. And nobody would know the difference because those two cities, there's not any, it's very inefficient. There's no way for those two markets to really talk. And so we came up with an idea that, hey, let's go buy this Fiji water, buy the truckload in one market, and go put it on a truck and ship it to another market where it's being sold at a much higher price, and then just make the spread. And that little business that we started when I was 17, by the time I was 23, was doing $50 million a year. By the time I was 27, was doing $80 million a year. We were purchased by a much larger company, and they asked me to move from Memphis, Tennessee down to Boca Raton, Florida, which Memphis, Tennessee is kind of a sleepy little town, not a lot of money. Boca Raton, Florida is kind of like the Beverly Hills of the West Coast. Of the East Coast. Lots of money, lots of wealth, lots of very fast action. So I was kind of a fish out of water, but I got down there, and the much larger competitor that purchased us effectively, like I said, threw the keys of this $800 million a year company to me, a 27-year-old kid, and said, we like what you've done, and we want you to go run our bigger company. And inside of 3 years, we turned it into $1.8 billion, doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. Now, the thing that made that kind of the reason why that growth happened with a kid running it was very simple when I'm looking back, right? Is that probably the one thing most people lose from their youth that they should try to hold on to desperately is their naivety, is their willingness their willingness to question everything. I was a very, very confident, cocky guy. From the time I was 17 until the time I was 27, I had built the company up to $80 million a year. I'd made a lot of money. I was doing very well. I had never failed. And so I had no reason not to believe that I was invincible and that I could just do anything. So when I came into an $800 million a year company, the very first thing I did was ask, why the hell are we doing it the way we do it? Why don't we go do it a different way? Why don't we go and instead of us trying to go sell what everybody's offering us, because at this point we're getting offered truckloads of items every day, thousands of them, right? And instead of doing that and competing, why don't we just go ask all of our customers exactly what it is that they want to buy, what price they want to pay, what city they want it delivered to, what date they want it delivered on, and how many trucks they want to buy from us. And then just go work backwards. Go create the deals directly with the manufacturers and distributors that actually make sense for our customers instead of going and competing with everybody else over the exact same truck of Fiji water. We're all trying to sell it. Basically, it's a race to zero. There's one truck of Fiji water, and everybody's sitting here trying to say who can pay the most for it and take the least for it on the other side. So let's get the margins pinched all the way down where nobody can make any money, and let's see how long that lasts. And so that's not a business I was excited about. And my little idea of starting with the end in mind just created $1 billion in annual revenue growth over the course of 30 months, right? Which sounds extraordinary, but that is a huge asset when you are young that you want to hold on to, is question everything.
Wow. So brilliant answers and lots to unpack there. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's unpack some things. So you went from 0 to 80 million with your first business within 10 years, and from 800 million to 1.8 billion in 3 years in your second. These are the good points about your story, but did you face any internal or external challenges in your first or your second businesses that you had to overcome to see these outstanding growths? And what were those challenges and how did you overcome them? For example, an internal challenge could be, something emotional or spiritual, or an external challenge could be, losing a distributor or losing business, or
by this point, I had 600 sales reps working for me, all in one office. There were challenges every day. There was nothing that was not, that was insurmountable, and nothing. I mean, these were just day-to-day things that we had to deal with. Probably the most, I would say that unknowingly, the challenge that I was facing, and I felt like I was overcoming, is that you have no idea that you're losing yourself to the business. And here's what I mean, is that this business was all consuming for me. I lived it, I breathed it every day. Every personal relationship I had was inside of those four walls. Everything that I cared about was inside of those four walls. I was the first one into the office at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was the last one to leave at 8 o'clock at night. It took a ton of pride in being that guy. I was all consumed, and I had no idea that I had lost my sense of what really matters. Because, I was doing this at the expense of my family. I was doing this at the expense of my new wife and at my young son. And quite frankly, I was conning myself into believing I was doing it for them. And the reality was I was doing it at the expense of them. So the single biggest challenge, is that I had lost perspective on what really mattered, on what was real, and had somehow confused my sense of self-worth with, again, success in business. And that is all too common.
Right. Okay, so after your second business was successful, you went on to launch another 8 or 9, right? So I want to talk to you about diversification. So when did you decide to start your third, fourth, fifth, and what pushed you? Made you decide that you want to start a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one? So how do you want to diversify it for people who have, say, a business that is going well?
So I don't, I would love to tell you that all of this was very methodical. The reality of it is it only looks methodical when you look back. When you gain the perspective of history and have the ability to look back, it looks that way. The reality of it is that I got into a argument, or whatever you want to call it, a very challenging time with my two business partners at the new company, and ultimately walked away from there, in a very unpleasant setting. Decided that I was going to just, in a matter of minutes, decided I was just going to go off and just kind of do this on my own. Now I went and built a business and tried to build that business at the expense of my former partners, and tried to go and made every bad decision. Although, we were doing $30 or $40 million a year very, very quickly. The reality of it is I was making a ton of bad business decisions. And over the course of a little over, or right at 2 years, I ended up losing everything. So although we grew very quickly because of my reputation and all of my relationships, the reality of it is that basically from walking out of there the following 2 years, on the outside, it looked like things were going well. Behind the scenes, they weren't going well. We were losing some money. We were having to fight all kinds of different legal battles with my former employers. Just a really, really hectic time. And ultimately, I ended up shutting that business down 22 months later. And it was a very, very hard, humbling experience to go through, because on the way down, I ended up losing, basically everything I'd ever worked for. But then that ultimately led me to real estate, right? I decided that I had somebody that was talking to me about the ability to buy and flip houses, which I gravitated to because of what I had just done in my previous life, right? And so I realized that when I understood that I could go and control an asset, a piece of property, contractually, and then quickly just flip the contract, never really actually buy the house, just flip the contract and can make a profit. I got really excited about that. And so inside of, a little less than 2 years, I built a multi-million-dollar business there, flipping houses. And the business consisted of me and an assistant. And that was out of a necessity of basically, there was no logic behind it outside of making money, right? I had spent 2 years losing everything I'd ever done. I was questioning every decision, right? I'd been on top of the mountain and suddenly I was in the deepest valley. And I was really, really struggling. And so I needed a way to make money, provide for my family, and kind of get my confidence back. And real estate really presented an opportunity. And so once I figured out how to do it and do it well, then I actually, started escaping it and turning the hustler side of my brain off and really turning it into a business. Mm-hmm. And that consisted of putting systems and processes and automation and people in place and bringing a lot of my prior experience and knowledge into an industry that had none of that, right? Real estate investing is a business of hustlers. It is not a business of business, right? Until recently, buying and selling houses, probably in the last 10 years has evolved to where it's now a business. But back then it wasn't a business. It was just a bunch of random people running up and down the street flipping houses, right? It was a hustle for people. And so we were kind of at the forefront of turning the actual investing side of it into a business. And that was really, for me, the motivation there was that being newly married, having a new little girl on the way, I didn't want to make the same mistakes I had made in my previous business. I'd been wildly successful, but it was at the expense of my family. And so I was dead set on making sure that this next business that I built was never at the expense of my family. And so I need to put really good people, systems, processes, healthy measurements, dashboards in place. So all of that was really kind of how I got into it. So my first business out of the grocery business was another grocery business. And although it got to multi-million dollars, it ultimately, I closed it down. That's the next business out of that. Now I'm in an investing business and I'm doing extremely well and we're going. Go ahead.
Right. So, So two very interesting things came out of the last piece. Firstly, friends or people that I know who wants to start a business, they're always second guessing themselves in terms of the knowledge that they have of the industry. So, but you have managed to seamlessly move between, say, distribution into real estate and other industries as well. So do you think that you need to have a deep knowledge of the industry before you can start your own business?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, one of the sayings that, I coined a few years ago that I still believe today with every fiber of my body is, I would rather have ignorance on fire than knowledge on ice. I cannot tell you how many very, very knowledgeable, broke people there are out there because they won't take action. And it's almost a cliche, right? They're just over-educated on, they feel like there's always some kind of finish line out there that they got to know a little bit more to take action. And the reality is it's exactly opposite of that. Because equally, I know so many extremely wealthy people that have very, very limited knowledge of the industry they're in. They know enough that they can add context to conversations. They can help people and understand how to get people involved and express their ideas in a winning way to where people feel confident in them. But down in the weeds of it, down in the actual guts of what's going on transactionally, they may not have really good working knowledge of that. But they have people around them that do.
Right.
It isn't about what you know, it's about who you know. And if you know getting in the game is the game. You have to get going, and time is not promised to anybody. So sitting around waiting to educate yourself more on what, some other element of the business is just a recipe for disaster. So many great ideas die with just inside of somebody's heart and inside of somebody's mind, and they just never came to fruition because somebody just didn't have the courage.
Yeah, for sure. So the message is get started, learn on your way.
Get started. Be willing. You know, here's Ron. This is what I think it is, right? So here's probably the deeper message is that understand that having a fear of failure does not serve you. You're going to fail. Just understand that if you go into business eyes wide open, prepared to fail, and understand that failing and falling down and getting beat up is the process. And nobody's going to judge you. By the way, if you believe anybody's going to judge you, let me help you understand. They're judging you now. You're going to get judged one way or the other. It doesn't matter. It is completely irrelevant to the journey. You have to get in the game. There is no safe passage. There is no safety net. There is no way that you can avoid getting beat up and beat down and having to recover and get back. It's all part of it. And so I think embracing the struggle is the message. Like, just understand that the thing that is holding you back and why you think you need more knowledge is that you just have this fear of the unknown. But that fear is learned through action. I mean, if I came to you today and said that I've read every book there is on flying an airplane, and I've watched every YouTube video, and I've listened to every podcast, and I believe now, although I've never actually done it, but I believe today that I'm ready to go become an airline pilot for American Airlines, you would tell me that I'm crazy. That's going to happen, right? But that's what people expect in business, and it's always shocking to me. It's like, wait a minute. You cannot read your way or watch enough videos or listen to enough podcasts you cannot replace getting in the cockpit and actually doing it. And you actually have to get in the game. That knowledge is the most valuable. That experience and that wisdom and that insight is the most valuable thing and will ultimately build the confidence that you're looking for.
Right. For sure. If you don't do it, you barely have any idea. Like doing it yourself. You don't learn to code by reading a book on coding. You have to turn on your laptop.
That's exactly right. And I think people are very misguided when it comes to business because they somehow believe they can educate themselves to a place where they feel like they can finally take action. And it doesn't work like that. Even if you are studying to become a pilot, think about what's the first thing they do when you're studying to become a pilot is they put you in an airplane, right? You have an instructor sitting next to you, right? They understand that they can talk about it as much as they want. You actually have to get in the game in order to understand.
100%. Solid advice there, Kent. So moving on to something which is very relevant in 2020. So, we all know what's happening with the economy globally, and some industries like the service industry and travel and tourism, hospitality and airlines. These industries are going to take a long time to recover. So people who are working in this industry and they're worried about their future, economic future, and they want to start something on their own, maybe a digital asset, maybe e-commerce website. So my question to you is, and I want an honest answer on this, do you think entrepreneurs are born or they can be made? Because if we look at you as an example, so you had a very entrepreneurial background. Some of your mindsets, did not allow you to give up in difficult situations, and there were other situations where you just could not. You had to get your relisted business up and running. So, but for people who want to start something on their own in 2020 because they're really worried about the economy. Do you think that entrepreneurs can?
I believe the answer to your question is both, right? Entrepreneurs are made and they're born. But I think what I think that most entrepreneurs are, let's not even call them entrepreneurs yet. Let's just call them, if you've ever read the E-Myth, they're basically people that are looking for a hustle, people that are trying to figure out a way to just simply make money, right? Sure. Figure out a way to create income. I think there's a big difference between a hustler and an entrepreneur. I think there's a big difference between a hustler and a business owner, right?
Sure.
But you got to go through one to get to the other. You have to become, you have to be the hustler first, and you have to build your confidence in order to suddenly evolve to a place where you realize that you want to actually own a business. And then the irony of that entire situation is that the hustler has to die in order for the entrepreneur to live, right? Because you have to get comfortable moving into a different role inside of a business. Suddenly you become a business owner versus, the doer of everything. But back to your original question.
Okay.
Yeah. What I don't think is stressed enough. And, I coach and teach a lot of entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I won't even work with somebody, period, unless they go through foundational learning with me. And what that means is that mindset is everything. Personal development is everything as an entrepreneur. The widget, whether you're doing e-commerce, whether you're doing drop shipping, whether you're doing real estate, whether you're doing, freelance work, it doesn't matter. If whatever it is, if you do not have the correct mental fortitude, then you're basically going to be the person, again, back to that knowledge on ice. You're going to be the educated person who won't take action. It requires, business is tough. Business is, and what I think most people that listen to this have to realize is there is an entire industry worth billions and billions of dollars that is designed to extract money out of you to make business seem easy. And it's not, right? Everybody wants to sell you the next greatest tactic or strategy or hack or whatever buzzword they want to use to make it seem like you can make money in minutes. And unfortunately, those are the same, carnival barkers that will sit there and tell you, take this magic pill and you're going to lose 10 pounds, or go and work out for 6 minutes a day and you're going to have, a six pack. That people get pulled into this circus of misinformation. And it's just not logical. And it's what I call the lottery winner mentality. There is a segment of people that come in and are conned into believing that suddenly I'm going to just scratch off this ticket, or I'm just going to put up this website, or I'm just going to do X, Y, or Z, and suddenly it's going to start raining money down on me. And that's not real. And, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to first get your mental fortitude in alignment. You have to understand what is driving you. You have to understand what your why, what your purpose, what your outcome is you're looking for. You have to understand the things that you really stand for as a person: integrity, doing the right thing, seeing things through, providing real value to your customers, making sure that you're making your kids proud, all of these things, right? You have to really understand who you are as a person and what's driving you every day. Then you need to get mentorship and people around you that support you and build you up and help lead you down a path that will put you in a place to where you can reach the results over time. Thinking you're going to just go buy an online course for $47 and you're somehow going to make $1 million next year is ridiculous. And business is hard.
Right.
Business is simple, but business is not easy.
For sure. And I think this was, if I'm not mistaken, this point was really well made by Russell Brunson. I think he said that self-help advice these days is kind of overtaking entertainment. So people are, so it's valuetainment basically. So people are looking into self-help or business advice in place of a Netflix, for example. And you're very right. So business is hard, and you have to build your, habits, your discipline, mental fortitude, and things like that before you can taste actual success in a real business. And
yeah, I mean, you have to be very, very protective of what's going on in between your two ears, because anybody listening to this, you have been trained your entire life, whether it is in friends, family, media, whatever. Everything has had an impression on you and what you believe is possible. And if you have people in your life, or you are tuning into things that are doing nothing but stripping you of your personal power, then it's going to be very, very challenging for you to have the belief system in place that is required for you to be successful in business. Business is brutal, right? You're going to get hit. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have bad days. You're going to do stuff that fails. You're going to lose some money. You're going to do all of these things. And that is a part of the process. And when you start to reposition those things as the good stuff, not the bad stuff, these are, learning experiences that are pushing you further towards your goal. And you have the mental fortitude to understand that, that's when success happens, because then the positioning is correct where you're willing to do whatever it takes and go as far as you need to go to achieve your goal. And that's what is required in order to be successful.
Absolutely. So speaking of coaching and mentorship, and I think you have started your own mentorship program, which is
correct,
the Avengers Mastermind, right? So when you started your first business, did you have any mentors who have already done what you wanted to do in that specific business? I know your dad.
I've had a lot. I've had a lot of key figures in my life you mentioned my father. When the CEO of the $800 million grocery company, a guy by the name of Sal Ricciardi, was a very, very big mentor to me in my life, helped guide me as a young man. My business partner, Roland Frazier, has been a huge, huge mentor to me inside of all of my business ventures. Frank Kern has been a really big mentor to me over the years. I've had a lot of guys over the years, Ed Milet, Jesse Itzler, guys that have really kind of taken me under their wings and really helped me to see the world in a different way. And, what mentors do for you is a couple of things. One, a good mentor, as the saying goes, a rising tide raises all ships. When you get into a room of extremely powerful people that are playing at a very different level than you're playing, you have no choice but to have different conversations. And when conversations elevate, then your belief system elevates. And when you start thinking in terms of, instead of thinking in terms of hundreds of thousands, and you start thinking in terms of hundreds of millions, your expectations change, your actions change, your outcomes change. And so I believe that having people in your life that not only support you and elevate you, but also clear the path for you and basically help guide you to a place where you're like, listen, you don't want to go this way because of X, Y, or Z, right? I've been there. I've done it. The collective experience of somebody sitting in front of you that has wisdom that you don't have, knowledge you don't have, and that can sit here and tell you not only what to do, but just as importantly, what not to do, is extremely powerful.
Absolutely. So basically, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So, I mean, we talked about this briefly in the previous section. People who teach other people how to make money online courses, but they don't have any other successful businesses. They have, digital business, teaching business. So mentors like that. So there are plenty of people who are doing this, right? So how do you find a good mentor who have had actual business success and sort of weed out those who don't have any other?
We live in an amazing age, right? We live in the information age. Take 10 minutes, right?
For sure.
First off, the very first thing is understand who's presenting the message to you. Go and do your research. Go and find the blogs. Go find out what their personal story is. Go find out how long they've been doing. Go find out where they failed. More importantly, where have they fallen down? Guys like myself and every one of the guys that I just mentioned, their personal stories are, whether it's in podcast or YouTube videos or anything, it's all out there, right? You know exactly where these guys have fallen down, and you know exactly what they've done to rise back up, and you know exactly what they've accomplished in their life. That's the first part, for sure. Then the second part is, put yourself in the room. A lot of these guys and women, I shouldn't say guys, I say guys generically, but a lot of these people, they have, whether that is they're doing live events or whether they're putting on virtual events or whether they have their own masterminds or whether you can pay them to come and speak at an event or whether you can go and buy them lunch. There is so many ways to get yourself in a position to where at least you can have an intelligent conversation to understand what the possibilities are, right? And I'll give you a really good example, right? Ed Milet is a perfect example. Ed Milet, the way he and I became friends is that I was putting on a live event. I'd probably done about 100 of them at that point. And I knew that I wanted to meet Ed. And I knew that a way to meet Ed was to pay him to come speak at my event. So I reached out to a mutual friend and found out, got Ed's information, got on the phone with him, booked him, paid, tens of thousands of dollars to have him come down and basically come and do a speech. But at the time that I did it, I made sure that I booked 4 hours with Ed, right? That if I'm going to pay this amount of money, which was an enormous amount of money, that I'm going to get 4 hours of his time. And I also knew that he would only be on my stage for 90 minutes, which left me 2.5 hours for me to just sit in the green room with him and get to know him. And he and I sat and we just became, we started to find out where all of our common ground is, all of our common beliefs are, all of the things that kind of made us, a lot of things that really mattered to both of us. And then I sat back, and after that, we kept in contact. We went to dinner a few times, we hung out a few times, and, God willing, here in the next, few months or so, he and I will be starting a business together as well. And you have to be willing, you have to understand and look for the opportunities to get a seat at the table. And if you're not willing to make the investment in yourself, and you cannot see the leverage clearly that would present, then you have no business being in business. If you are going into business and you are dead set on never investing in yourself, never shortcutting the process and collapsing time and getting the outcome faster, then I can tell you, you're in for a rougher road than it needs to be. I'm always looking for who are the people that I can surround myself with that I know that we could potentially make a difference together. That's what I'm trying to do. And so I constantly am looking for ways that I can put myself in the same room. And I've done that probably the last 15 years very, very successfully. And my network and my circle of peers and colleagues is as good as anybody else out there, for sure.
So, so for people who are just starting out and they have not tasted financial success yet, and they cannot afford to pay the $10,000 mastermind, how can they add value to these entrepreneurs or these people who have tasted success?
Find out if you can go to work for them. Find out if you can go to work for them for free. I've had plenty of people that come into my office and say, Kent, I will work for you for free for 6 months. Just put me to work. I want to soak up the knowledge. I've had plenty of people do that over the years. And in every case, they are making the investment. They don't have the financial currency, but they do have a very powerful currency, and that's time. If you can, offer your time, offer, your integrity, offer your work ethic in exchange of the value, right? You get that is still a currency that spins very well.
Right. Yep. For sure. It's like maybe a freelancer offering their work for
100%.
months.
I had my videographer when I first started. They came in and brand new, just out of film school, offered to come in and work for free for 6 months. And I probably extracted, I don't know, $20,000 or $30,000 in content for free out of them. They brought real value to my life. And then ultimately I helped them build that business. And now they're off running a very, very successful, media company because my portfolio provided leverage for them.
Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about marketing, Ken. So basically, say that people have a clear idea of what they want to do, and they want to reach out to the people they want to sell their product or service or their idea to, right? And internet marketing, and you spoke about Frank Kern, and there are various ways to get your message across. Email list or social media or Facebook ads or influencer marketing. What would be the channel that you would advise people who want to start out on their business, their idea?
There's two types of marketing out there. You have direct response marketing, and then you have brand building. And we live in an age now where both are becoming equally as important, right? I mean, what I think that most people have to get comfortable with is that social media is not going anywhere, and that people want to do business with people and brands that they identify with and that they like, know, and trust. So I think you have to be very aware that you're putting out really good content first and foremost, right? Building an audience, building people that are going to trust you ultimately for your product and service. Equally, on the other side, spending money in a direct response way, driving directly to a product, whether it's e-com or courses or whatever the case may be, understanding that. All right.
Hi, Ken. I can hear you right now.
Okay.
Sorry, when we started to talk about internet marketing, there was a problem with the connection and I could not hear you at all.
No problem. Let's just jump right into it.
Sure. So I was asking you, for people who want to get started with a new business idea and they want to get their message across, what internet marketing do you suggest they use in terms of, say, email list, influencer marketing, search engine optimization? What would be your advice?
I would say the easiest and quickest path is I would one, immediately get on social media, Instagram and Facebook, and even potentially TikTok, and start providing a ton of value in content, right? Understand you're building a brand, building an audience. TikTok especially, you can build an audience so fast, right? It's so viral. And from the audience, then you can start driving them back into your product and service. Our rule inside of here is we're going to provide 5 pieces of good, valuable content before we do what we call a take. So it's 5 give, 1 take. We want to go out there and, again, every medium that we can be present on, we want to be omnipresent. We want to provide as much value as humanly possible. And I think that anybody can do this. Most people are a little reluctant because they don't think that anything they have to say is valuable, but it is. What you want to be doing is share your story, share your day, share these tips and tricks and hacks and everything that has to do with why your product is better. What are the clear objections that people could potentially have to your product? Create stories and storylines around helping any of these objections and ultimately trying to buy your product. Now, when you have that audience, equally, you need to have a direct response platform as well. So using Facebook or YouTube to drive audiences into a website where they can easily order is the most cost-effective way to do that. You can quickly test new products, new services, new landing pages, new headlines, new angles. Very, very quickly on these platforms, right? But you need to understand, I think most people need to understand from an advertising and marketing standpoint that this part of it in and of itself is as much the business as anything else. Like, this is something that deserves your time. This is something that clearly cannot be ignored. We live in a day and age where people do business with people they like, know, and trust, and they go and search those people immediately online before they'll buy the product. Is this real?
For sure.
And if you're not there, and if you're not providing value, and you're not the kind of person, they will not do business with you. So this is not a choice. And this is not a do this or that. It is that you do both. It is an and. You're out there providing content and you give people a place to do business with you and you're testing angles.
So to summarize that, you would say pick a channel, be it TikTok, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, provide free, valuable content, and then drive them to a direct response scenario like an email list. Would that summarize your advice?
You got it. You got it.
All right. Awesome. Now it's time for the most fun section of the interview, Kent. So what I do is, the section is called one-word answers. So I give you a word, and you have to immediately reply with the word that comes to your mind when you think of that word, right? And you cannot repeat or use a word that you've already used in the section so far, right?
Okay.
Ready?
Let's go. So go ahead.
Okay. First one is your favorite book.
The Alchemist.
Wow. Okay. Your favorite holiday destination.
Cabo San Lucas.
Right. Favorite character from a book or a movie.
Oh wow, man! I got so many. I'm just trying to think of the favorite one that I would narrow it down to. Chevy Chase in Caddyshack.
Wow. Okay. So health. What comes to your mind when you think health?
Being a vegan.
Right. Money.
Freedom.
Fame or status.
Overrated.
Family.
What is that one?
Family.
Priority.
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. Wealth.
And the last and most important one is legacy.
Everything.
Wow. That's awesome. So I think we have come to the end of the interview. The next 1 minute is for you. We call it your message to the world. So whatever you want to talk about, maybe if you want to also talk about Avengers Mastermind Live or whatever business advice you want to summarize in 1 minute, the podium is yours. Go for it.
Yeah, one, I would tell people to, if you're looking for help, make sure that you reach out. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Kent Clothier. You mentioned the Avengers Mastermind. I would definitely tell you that there are a lot of different avenues to get in the game, whether it is in real estate or in business or whatever, but get in the game. Probably one of the most profound things that a mentor shared with me one time, and I'll just share it with everybody here, is that if you're not sitting at the table, then you can rest assured you're on the menu.
Wow. Fantastic. And I think that was one of the best interviews that I've done. And I'm so grateful for your time. And thank you so much, Ken.
You got it. Thanks.
It was a lovely interview.
I appreciate you. Take care.
All right. You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hey guys, Rohan Nag here. Let me ask you a few questions. Are you sick and tired of giving up on your biggest goals? Do you always come back to the same place after having made some progress towards your goals? Do you often sabotage yourself when you are trying to level up in life? Do you feel like you have a lot of potential, but you are not doing enough with it? Have you stagnated in life in terms of income, health, career growth for years? Are you suffering from a lack of meaning in your life since the COVID-19 pandemic hit? Are you worried about job security in the current economic climate? Or maybe you're just, you just want to increase your value in the job market and you want to make sure that you are not made redundant. Perhaps you want to create multiple income sources, but you have no idea where to start. Do you have outrageous goals, but you are held back by fear and anxiety? Do you lack the energy and motivation to execute on your plans? It could be the case that you wake up every day to bad COVID-19 news all around and you just want to focus your attention on something positive. It's possible that you're super bored right now and you just want to do something productive. Perhaps you want to learn a new skill, lose some weight, increase your productivity, and focus and follow up on your New Year's resolution. Listen, if your answer is yes to one of more of these questions, then I have something critical to tell you right now. But first, let me tell you a quick story. I was a person who had everything that society tells you is important, like college degree, like job in a reputable firm, vacation 2 3 times a year. I would, travel the world internationally. I traveled to 6 countries in 2019 and everything money could buy, but I experienced a deep lack of fulfillment, meaning, and purpose in my life. I realized the gift of human life is immeasurably precious. To live a life without meaning or purpose, to have not done anything to make the world a better place, is to have wasted this valuable gift. Deep down inside, I know I had more to offer to the world. I knew I was not living my best life. I wasn't dreaming big enough. I wasn't taking enough action. I was not creating a legacy for myself. I was just living a life without goals, ambitions, hopes, and dreams, and a purpose. All I wanted to do at that point was something bigger than me, something that will be my legacy, something that will help other people too. I know I have a lot to give to my family, my community, and the world at large, but I was struggling to find a vehicle to create value for me and others. To be honest, I felt like a monumental failure in my life. I had lived half of my allocated time in this world without having done something meaningful, something which will outlive me. On top of that, I had absolutely garbage habits like smoking, not sleeping properly, eating crap foods, not taking care of my mind, body, soul. These habits were just dragging me to the depths of hell and were killing my self-esteem that I had left. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm talking about October 2019. I was chilling with my friends and they had just left and I was alone in my bed and I could not sleep. There was one thought that kept me awake. Have I done everything that I have been sent here on this earth to do? And my mind was telling me, no. That was my breaking point, really. I could not take it anymore. So I got off my bed and decided to give my life a scorecard. I looked at my career, my income, relationships, health, service, legacy, and other important pillars in life. And the results I had produced in this area were really underwhelming. That felt like a gut punch. Half of my life is gone already and I had not done anything commensurate to the wonderful gift called human life. I knew I needed to set big and audacious goals for myself, transform myself into the best version physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and kill off all the rubbish habits that were dragging me down. In order to be successful in the endeavor of transforming myself, I knew I had to draw inspiration from the times I have been successful in my life. And then, as if by chance, something magical happened. When I looked at my previous successes, I found a pattern. I discovered that there were a total of 6 magical things that I did every time I succeeded in life. Like when I managed to lose 70 pounds of body fat in a period of 6 months. It was like clockwork. I took these exact 6 steps when I did something well in my life. And every time I did not achieve my goals, I failed to follow one or more of these rules every time all the time. That's when I realized success is a process which has 6 rules or pillars. And if I abide by these rules, I will succeed. And if I do not, I will fall flat on my face. My plan was to incorporate these 6 rules into my life and launch an e-commerce business. I knew from my past business experiences there's nothing like starting a business if you want to build character. A business demands you have massive work ethic, excellent communication skills, high level of discipline, and an ability to deal with failures, rejection, stress, and so much more. Yet, there is nothing more rewarding when it succeeds. I did everything necessary to become ready to tackle the rigors of a business. I gave up smoking, got my diet and sleep right, started exercising, became more disciplined with my execution. I picked a niche for my e-commerce business, researched profitable products in that niche, got the logo, bought the domain, got the website up, and was just about prepared to launch my business. When I was ready to start sending traffic to my website, something happened which I was not prepared for. When I was about to take my business idea to the world, COVID-19 hit and everything changed forever. On March 11, 2019, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, and hundreds of countries closed their borders and trade and commerce took a huge hit. I know the business that I was working on for months would have to be closed down before it made the first sale. This pulled the rug from under my feet. For the next couple of months, I felt like I was stabbed through my heart. I kept my fingers crossed that countries would be able to flatten the curve and open up their borders, but deep down inside, I know it will take months, if not years, before things would go back to normal. Then it helped me like a bolt of lightning. I realized brick and mortar businesses that deal with physical products, apart from the most basic necessities, are not going to do well in the short term. The only way to make money in the current economic situation is to build digital assets. No matter what the situation is with brick and mortar stores, you can sell, if you can sell things that can be shipped through the internet, like ebooks or podcasts or YouTube videos or blogs or softwares or freelancing and consulting services, you can still build a successful business. Immediately after that, I started creating digital assets. In the next 2 months, I wrote a book and I launched this podcast where I talk about internet marketing, starting online businesses, success strategies, and so much more. To my surprise, I managed to interview more than 50 very successful people in every field, from entrepreneurs to YouTubers, on my podcast. These interviews are massively valuable because the guests share their journeys, success stories, tips, tools, strategies, and so much more. This podcast has gone on to receive more than 1,500 listens and downloads within a month of its launch. To tell you the truth, I have come a long way since October 2019. Not only did I manage to destroy lifelong unhealthy habits like smoking, bad nutrition, improper sleep cycles, impulsive spending, but I'm a published author and a podcast host now. But the biggest change that I think has come in the way I feel about myself. Life does not feel meaningless anymore, and I do not feel like an underachiever. I wake up each day with great hope and enthusiasm. I have massive amounts of energy and focus. I have direction and motivation, and it feels like I'm walking the right path in life and making the best use of my talents and gifts. Although the pandemic slowed me down for a couple of months, I have a feeling 2020 is going to be the best year yet. And that's why I'm so excited to share with you my book, The 76 Lockdown Guide, How to Overcome Obstacles, Reignite Your Passion, and Find Meaning During the COVID-19 Calamity. In the book, I talk in depth about the 6-step golden formula that I've used to accomplish my most challenging goals. You can use the same 6-step formula to tackle the most difficult challenges, find direction, meaning, and purpose in life, and completely transform yourself into a new you during the COVID-19 lockdown. I am leaving a link to get the book from Amazon Kindle right now in the show notes. Do check it out.